Agitorium nostrum in nomine Domini. Let's take a look at these great words. This is the class of Acts of the Magisterium. And you need to know about Bishop Frépel, the Bishop of Angers. We just saw his quote last class, where he talks about don't compromise on principles. There might be breaches of morality, but cannot compromise on principles. And keep preaching the faith, keep living the faith, defending it. If no one listens in this age, it will listen. Someone in the future age will listen. We're on page 14. Remember Bishop Frépel in the Diocese of Angers in France. In the back of the chapel here you have the painting of Father Blessed Noel Pignot. Blessed Noel Pignot. In the picture he's ascending the guillotine. Making the sign of the cross, and he's in full vestments because he was saying Mass in secret. He was a non-juring priest, a resistance priest of the French Revolution. And they even called themselves resistance in those times. Same in England. They were the resistance. Archbishop Lefebvre said, we are resistance, ANCE. So, and anyway, Father Noel Pignot, he made the sign of the cross as he ascends the scaffold. He was betrayed, he was arrested, sentenced to the guillotine, and on the day of his execution, he arrives in full vestments. And what did he say when he ascended the steps to the guillotine? He made the sign of the cross and said, I will go under the altar of God. The first prayer the priest says starting Mass, right? And his head was chopped off. So that was in the Diocese of Angers. So Bishop Frépel came after him, but was inspired by him and praised him. Page 14 on the bottom. Also, you need to know Cardinal P of Poitiers, who read some of his works every day.
Saint Pius X.
Yeah, Pius X. And Pius X said, he's my master. Cardinal P is my master. And he said, I read a bit of him every day. And if you read the first encyclical of Pope St. Pius X in 1903, and you read some of the writings of Cardinal P of Poitiers, it's almost word for word the same. So I think Pius X even drew inspiration and actual ideas and wording from Cardinal P of Poitiers. All right, bottom of page 14. This is Cardinal P, Works, Volume 5, page 203. The imperative duty and the noble custom of Holy Church is to pay homage especially to the truth when it is ignored, to profess it when it is threatened. There is a mediocre merit to claim to be its apostle and its supporter when all acknowledge and adhere to it. So, all right, so what's he saying? When everybody professes the traditional Catholic faith, when everybody's with the Catholic resistance, like the SSPX before 2012, when everybody's on the fighting side, and a lot of people are with you and you're with them, yeah, it's easy to profess the faith and hold the flag and proclaim the truth. But when the truth is persecuted, when it's hated, when you're called all sorts of names for my sake, Christ says, then it's a different ballgame, isn't it? Quite a different thing. And it's really, it's striking when you read history, like with the Cristero movement, the Cristero resistance, the Vendée resistance, the recusant resistance in England, the Catholic resistance in Ireland, Wales, Scotland. The heroic, faithful ones, they don't change. They profess the faith. But it's quite surprising, and they were surprised with how many friends they knew, relatives, neighbors who went with the new religion. That's a lesson. And I remember at table at the seminary, seminaries we'd often talk about, how in the world did all those bishops of Vatican II, who studied what we're studying, St. Thomas Aquinas, the scriptures and catechism, theology, dogma, how did they go with this council? And yet those very seminarians who were saying that now, today, since 2012, are with Vatican II, the new Mass, and new Code of Canon Law, publicly professed and signed on by Bishop Fillet. It's a true new position of the SSPX. But they went along with it. Why? How did that happen? When they should be with the Catholic resistance. So, like St. Paul says, you who stand, take heed lest you fall. Because it's a grace. We have to humbly beg God the grace to persevere. All right. Top of page 15. Read on, please, Michael.
To make so much of the human state of the truth, and to love it so little for itself, that we deny it as soon as it is no longer popular. As soon as it does not have number, authority, preponderance, success. Would that not be a new way of doing our duty and of understanding honor? Let it be known, the good remains good and must continue to be called as such, even when nobody does it. Furthermore, a small number of persons putting forth claims is sufficient to save the integrity of the doctrines, and the integrity of the doctrine is the only chance for the restoration of order in the world.
Okay, that's great Cardinal P right there. So many people, it's easy to profess the Catholic faith of tradition and Latin Mass when it's very popular. But when it comes under the crunch, it doesn't change things. We have to still profess it. And even if it is a small number, which the Catholic resistance really is, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The doctrine will be the seed of restoration for tomorrow. And we owe so much to Archbishop Lefebvre because he really gave to his priests the knowledge and love of the papal encyclicals. Most seminaries, they don't study the papal encyclicals. But that's the one thing Archbishop Lefebvre insisted on. And they're powerful as you're studying. They're deep, powerful, and they're anti-liberal. They're anti-communist, anti-socialist, anti-modernist, anti-evolution. They're Catholic. So this is another great quote. And I have on the notes on the side, Archbishop Lefebvre was the only one to defend the truth at Vatican II with Bishop de Castro-Mer. Right after Council of Vatican II, there was 250 traditional bishops. But then they all just kind of, well, Lefebvre, I agree with you. I'm sympathetic with you, but don't announce my name. Don't tell anybody I support you. Oh, I can't come to the conference. I can't be with you at the ordinations. So Archbishop Lefebvre ended up, after the dust settled, he's the only one standing. So it is with the Catholic resistance. We really hoped Bishop Williamson would just calmly continue the work of the SSPX. But for whatever reason, he took a turn and he would make fun of the resistance and say, I'm no leader of the resistance. I don't believe in the resistance. And he did everything to shoot it down and confuse it and dissolve it. No need for structure, no need for seminaries. They tell me in Canada that there was a big conference in Calgary. 2 young guys Canadians drove all the way across Canada to ask Bishop Williamson, this was in 2013 or 14, where can we go to a seminary? And he said, oh, no seminary, not time for structure, no time for seminaries. Just go back in the world, get married. And that's probably what they ended up doing. So he should have taken that the way Archbishop Lefebvre took it. Young men came to him, and parents say, where can we send our boys to the seminary? We can't send them to these rotten seminaries now. This is 60s. So Archbishop Lefebvre, he saw, well, maybe God is trying to tell me something. I need to do something for the church. And the first worry, the first concern, the first interest a bishop should always have first and prominent is what?
Priests.
Priests. Formation of priests. Seminaries. And St. Pius X has whole encyclicals on the importance of the seminaries and how the bishops are to look after them and visit them often and encourage the young men and look over their studies. So the Catholic resistance, we should really have a lot more priests, but we don't. We just don't, and I wish it was different, but that's the way it is. So it's kind of laughable with what you're stuck with, except for Father Ruiz. He's an old, great fighter, the quiet fighter. He's like a sniper, you don't hear him much. He's quite quiet, but he hits his target and blows up whole tanks, and because he's well grounded in the anti-liberal Catholic doctrine. He's good. He's a blessing. He really is a blessing. And then we used to have like Father Jacquemin in Belgium. He used to be with the resistance. Another priest from Spain. What was his name? Father. I forgot his name, but they all went Sedevacantist. They all went Sedevacantist. So, it's an easy error to fall into. We got a bad pope, so he's not pope. All right. What does that solve?
That's true.
The social reign of Christ implies the public profession of faith against the opposition to the reign of Christ. So a silent priest, silence is not golden in a priest, nor a bishop. They say silence is golden, but not in a priest and bishop, at least certainly when it comes to preaching the truth. You shall pray thus, said Jesus. Go on. Sic ergo vos orabitis. So you will pray. Go on, Anthony.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Cardinal Pierre, taking up the Pater, proves that the first three petitions are summed up and condensed in one, that of the public social reign. For, he explains, the name of God cannot be hallowed fully and totally if it is not publicly acknowledged.
Okay, stop. This is powerful stuff. All right? So we just studied this in the catechism. Now, the name of God cannot be hallowed, that is sanctified, fully, because we say, hallowed be thy name, sanctified be thy name. No, it cannot be done fully and totally if it is not what?
Publicly
acknowledged.
Yes. That means by the public governments, by the public officials. So the name of God must be sanctified, that is honored by the political authorities. This is what he's saying. Go on.
The divine will is not done on earth as it is in heaven if it is not accomplished publicly and socially.
Yes, very powerful. Very powerful. So not just thy will be done in my heart and in my home, but publicly. The government needs to do God's will. Proclaim Christ the King, protect the true religion, and profess it, and obey him. Go on.
Bad politics is nothing else than bad philosophy, making its principles into maxims of public right.
Cardinal P. Pastoral Works, Volume 2, page 437. All right, here's the next round from Cardinal P. How many examples could be quoted to illustrate the oppositions against the reign of the gospel in all parts of the world, from the bloody persecutions of Nero down to the undertakings of modern Freemasonry? Cardinal P explained this in a masterly fashion with the help of a formula of St. Augustine. Quote, Guadalupe, loud and clear.
The first verses of this psalm, St. Augustine brings down to this thought. Demos operam us nos non adiget, neque nobis imponator Christiana religio.
Meaning,
let us set down to work so that Christ may not bind us, and that the Christian religion may not be imposed upon us. Demos opera. That was the effort of Herod, of Pilate, of Caiaphas, and of the prince of the priests, of the Sanhedrin, of the Pharisees, of the Jews, and of the Gentiles. Demos opera. That was the effort of paganism during 3 centuries, from Nero to Maxentius. All indeed was the tremors of the people, the clamors of the society. Demos opera. That was the effort of the human mind of all times. And if, after having gone through all the ages of history, we listen to the war cries of present time, if we wonder why the modern tremors of the nations, if we wonder why the modern tremors of the nations and the unrest of the people, demos opera, it will be answered to us, ut nos non adiget neque nobis imponator Christiana religio.
which means, let us set to work that he, Christ, does not bind us, nor impose on us the Christian religion. Go on.
Listen to the politics beyond the English channel.
No, well, yeah, that's what it is. The channel is the English channel. So he's saying the politics in England, basically. Listen to the politics beyond the channel, or
beyond the Alps. Listen to those of the north and of the south, divided by 1,000 interests, by 1,000
antipathies,
by 1,000 national prejudices. Passion puts them in agreement against God and his Christ, against the Church of God, against the Vicar of Christ. Hostility against Christ works alliances which would have been impossible without it. It stays the jealousies.
Or restrains. It restrains or stays the jealousies and the
most deeply rooted national hatred. They were fighting one another yesterday. Today they are now embracing one another. Whenever the scepter of Christ is at stake, they will play the game together. Et ex illa die facti sunt amici Herodes et Pilatus.
What's that mean?
And in that same day, Herod and Pilate were made friends.
Yeah, the day of Good Friday, right? Herod and Pilate made friends. So Cardinal P is saying, all these political powers and powerful people, they become friends to crush the Catholic religion, to expel Christ. Go on.
What David had prophesied, history indeed has justified it, and justifies it every day. The same permanent opposition, fierce opposition flaring up even more after a period of respite. Dirompamus vincula iorum, et proiciamus a nobis jugum ipsorum.
Let us break their chains, and let us throw off from us their yoke. So the revolution, throwing off the teachings of the church and the sweet yoke of our Lord. Conclusion, page 18. The famous interview of Cardinal P with Napoleon III. It was in 1856, on March 15th, to the emperor, who congratulated himself for having done more for religion than the Restoration. Cardinal P answered, I hurry to give your majesty credit for his religious dispositions, and I can acknowledge, sir, or your eminence, the services he has rendered to Rome and the church especially during the first years of his government. Maybe the Restoration did not do more than you, but let me add that neither the Restoration nor you have done for God what had to be done, because neither it nor you have restored his throne, because neither it, the Restoration was the peace period with Napoleon, whose peacefully implemented the revolutionary principles of the French Revolution. Just like Vatican II, you had the huge uproar in the 70s, but then the 80s and 90s peacefully implemented the principles of Vatican II, put in the Restoration. So neither it nor you have denied or rejected the principles of the Revolution, which you nonetheless combat in its practical consequences, because the social gospel which inspires the state of France is still the declaration of the rights of man, which is nothing else, sir, than the formal denial of the rights of God. So Cardinal P is telling him, yeah, you praise yourself for doing some good for the church and this and that, and allowing, Catholic education separate from public schools. Okay, you pat yourself on the back, but you do nothing because you don't condemn the principles of the Revolution and the Declaration of the Rights of Man, which was condemned by Pope Pius VI. So in other words, you're a scoffer, you're a joker. And he goes on to say, now it is God's right to rule over the states as well as over individuals. Our Lord did not come upon earth for anything else. He must reign here below by inspiring the laws, by sanctifying the morals, by enlightening the education, by guiding the councils, city councils and government councils, by regulating the actions of the governments, as well as the people governed. Wherever Jesus Christ does not reign, there is
disorder and decadence.
Wherever Jesus Christ does not reign, there is
disorder and decadence.
Wherever Jesus Christ does not reign, there is disorder and decadence. Very true. Now it is my duty to tell you that he does not reign among us, and that our constitution, this is the new French constitution, is not, far from it, that of a Christian and Catholic state. Our public law states, it is true, that the Catholic religion is that of the majority of the French people, but it adds that the other cults, the other religions, have a right to an equal protection. Does not this amount to proclaiming that the Constitution protects likewise truth and error? Well, your eminence, sir, do you know that what Jesus Christ answers to governments who make themselves guilty of such a contradiction? Jesus Christ, King of heaven and earth, answers them, and I likewise grant you an equal protection. To you governments who follow one another, overthrowing one another, I granted this protection to the emperor, your uncle. I granted the same protection to the Bourbons, the same protection to Louis Philippe, the same protection to the Republic, and to you also the same protection will be granted, which is revolution, chop off their head, disaster, collapsing. So Christ, in other words, won't be mocked. So how was the Napoleon mocking Christ?
He was putting him on the same level as the other religions.
Yeah, we'll give equal protection to all beliefs. And Cardinal P is telling him, well, you do that, you follow like all those who have rejected Christ. You're going to end up having your head chopped off and cut to pieces. The emperor interrupted the bishop, the Cardinal P. But what do you believe that the time in which we live admits of this state of things, in that the time has come to establish this exclusively religious reign you are requesting from me? Do you not think, Your Excellency, that this would unleash all the evil passions? In other words, if I defended only the Catholic religion, don't you think this would cause civil war? People would be unhappy. Eminence, when great political men like your majesty object that, quote, the moment has not come, I only have to bow because I am not a great political man, but I am a bishop, and as a bishop I answer them. The time has not come for Jesus Christ to reign? Well, then the time has not come for governments to last or to endure. So you don't want the reign of Christ the King? Then your government will collapse. Give it time. It might be 200 years, it might be 100 years, but it's not going to last. It won't endure. Quoted by Théotime de Saint-Just, page 76, Life of Cardinal P, volume 1, book 2, chapter 2, page 697. So pretty powerful, right? Look at the very front page. In 1675, Christ said to Saint Margaret Marie Alacoque, "Fear nothing, I will reign in spite of my enemies, and of those who try to oppose me. This Sacred Heart will reign in spite of Satan, and of all those whom he raises up to oppose it." So fear nothing, I reign in spite of my enemies. So that was 1675. So the Sacred Heart of Jesus asked the King of France to consecrate France to the Sacred Heart and put the Sacred Heart on
the flag.
The national flag. Did he ever do it?
No.
He made excuses. These wimpy French kings, I'm telling you. Even St. Joan of Arc nearly pulled her hair out to deal with these people. They were so wimpish and so soft. Wouldn't do the right thing. So here the Sacred Heart is directly requesting this of France. The king rejects it, and what happened to him 100 years later?
He was beheaded.
Yes, and it was King Louis XVI. Awful thing. Really it is. It's an awful thing. I mean, imagine the Democrats rounding up Trump and chopping off his head in Washington, D.C. I mean, it'd be a horrible thing. Just the act of killing your own president. And this is a president. This is nothing compared to an anointed king. Anointed by the oils of the consecrated bishop. So our Lord made reference to this to Sister Lucia when he said, if the Pope, tell my ministers, if the Pope will not do as my mother has asked, they will follow, I forget the exact words, but they will follow in the same way as the King of France. The same misfortune will fall upon them. So the King of France, 100 years after the request of the Sacred Heart, head chopped off. Our Lady of the official request for the consecration of Russia by the Pope in union with all the bishops in a public ceremony was 1929. 1929. Tui. The vision of Tui, of the crowning vision of Fatima. 100 years later is going to be 2029. So they're not listening to the Blessed Virgin Mary. In fact, there's more and more coming out about Sister Lucia, the forensics showing the real Sister Lucia and the fake one. And it's quite shocking. The forensics shows different face, nose structure, chin structure, teeth structure, different dialect of Portuguese.
Different
handwriting, different modulation of voice. It's a different person. And think of it, Pope Paul VI displayed the fake Sister Lucia to the world, pretending it was the real one. And another recent study that just came out is very powerful. Oh yeah, we got to listen to it. Is they found out that Father Jose Escriba, was in Fatima a few days before the fake Sister Lucia was shown to the world. And before him, there was an Opus Dei bishop who was put in charge of Fatima, and he silenced and shut down the works of Father Fuentes, who was the one who interviewed Sister Lucia in 1957, and he had over 20 volumes of evidence, documents, all on Fatima. And all that was silenced, it was put in the archives. And Father Fuentes was basically shut down. He couldn't write, he couldn't spread the message anymore. He was basically shut down. So Opus Dei is like Freemasonry within the Catholic Church. They wear their cassocks, they say the new Mass, they're very conservative. A lot of them say the Latin Mass. And they're basically the Freemasonry in the Catholic Church. So it's really interesting, this connection with Opus Dei and the shutting down of Fatima and shutting down the real Sister Lucia. And I've said this many times, I can't wait till the real Sister Lucia, when we can know what really happened to her. Did she die a martyr? Was she poisoned? Did she die a natural death? We don't know yet. But we know there's a lot of darkness involved. And it's right from the Vatican. So, a lot of things yet to be unveiled. So, okay. Well, what do you think of these quotes overall?
They're very strong.
Yeah, very good.
Very clear.
Yeah, keep this, because in the future you want to refer to it, you want to pray over this, as a priest, I've used these quotes many times in sermons, because they're just clear, very clear cut. And Cardinal P doesn't mess around. It's all or nothing for Christ the King. Okay? So, all right, we'll close there, and then Sacred Scripture next. Agitorium nostrum in nomine Domini.
Qui facet celum et terram.